Okay, we will call the Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. We will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we need to do a roll call.
Yes, Livermore alternate Marshawn,
Here.
Director Testa,
Here.
and then Chair McPherson, sorry.
Here.
We have a form.
All righty. Okay, I am opening up the meeting, item 3, to the public. Members of the audience may address the committee on any matter within the general subject matter jurisdiction of the LAVTA Board of Directors. Members of the audience may address the committee on items on the agenda at the time the chair calls for a particular agenda item. The public comments should not exceed 3 minutes. So do we have any public comments?
Currently, we have no attendees in the meeting and I have not received any public comments.
So we will close that public comment period and we'll move on. Item 4, approval. Let's see, no. Minutes from August 27th meeting of the F&A committee.
I move to approve item 4, approval of the minutes from August 27th.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'm going to abstain so you can second. I wasn't
Then
here.
I will second because I was there.
I was not here.
Okay,
And I
do we
was,
want to do a roll call here or are we just gonna go?
You, whatever, Chair's
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 One abstain.
I would abstain.
One abstain, okay. Okay, next item, item 5 is the treasurer's report for August 2024.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Before you is the treasurer's report for August 2024. We've already finished the second month and almost the third month of the new fiscal year. Our audit's almost done from last year. Presently, on the expense side, we're roughly at 16.66%. Or excuse me, 16.72%. We're slightly over our target. However, the beginning of the year is always like that because we have bills that we pay in June that are for the full year. We'll be paying some other larger bills this month as well, so it'll stay high for a little while. Our revenues are only at 2% presently. That's normal. Our primary funding source is Transit Development Act funding. And for whatever reason, they're never in a hurry to send it to us, even though we have money in reserves. And they could send it to us, but, and it's been approved, but they haven't actually sent us any. Some of our other funding is reimbursement basis, but that one comes in kind of as the money rolls into MTC. And then our STA funding doesn't tend to come in until October, just because the state's always on a lag. Same with Measure BB, it's always on a 2-month lag. So revenue wise, it looks bleak. However, LAVTA has plenty of money in our LAIF and our regular account, so we're not going to have a cash flow issue. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions?
I'll move to the report.
You want to
Was
go?
there any public comment?
I'm not there, I'm just asking you if anybody here has any questions. Zip, okay,
And that's
then,
what I
any public comments?
I'll move approval of the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have to take a breath. Okay, the next item is item 6, the DBE policy update. Go over that.
Second business.
So this is an update to our disadvantaged business enterprise policy, which we updated just a few years ago. However, the Department of Transportation, the DOT, came up with a number of new regulations for FTA, FAA, and FHWA to add to their DBE policies. One of those changes is there are now 2 tiers, and the tier that you are in determines which of the rules you have to follow. Tiers are based on how many, or how much you're awarding that year in federal contracts. We plan to just follow the more difficult tier just because If you start at the beginning of the year thinking it's gonna be a smaller amount, and then all of a sudden you have to change direction mid-year, it's just, it can be a problem. We're also using it on, we have some contracts that we're not receiving federal funds on, but we could later, they're like 7-year contracts, so we follow all the FTA rules and they actually don't have DBE as well. And so based on that, even though we're not technically awarding at that, and it wouldn't go into the total dollar amount, it could later be counted. So to avoid any trip ups later on with our triennial review, we will be following the tier 1 rules, for those over 670,000, just to be on the safe side. The big changes, not all the changes affect us. We are not a certified agency, thank goodness. They have a ton more changes, and most of them are looking at actually adding staff because there's just so much more work to be done. But for us, we needed to add a few lines in our bidders list information. So we now need to keep track of the NAICS codes, their zip code. We used to just ask, if they were a DBE, a registered DBE, now we need to know their actual race and gender. And this is really not for us so much, it's for the DOT to track, because they want to look at disparities out there. So the prompt payment and return of retainage, this is in terms of monitoring subcontractors that are DBEs, making sure that the prime is actually paying them in the proper amount of time. So that's not really new, but the amount of monitoring we have to do on that's a little bit more now. They changed the transit vehicle manufacturer definition. Not really an issue for us. We just look and make sure that they got certified by the FTA as a TBM, and we move on with buying our buses. We changed the procedure for good faith efforts on design build contracts. We haven't had one of those in the time I've been here, but we will have one, hopefully, probably not this year, but hopefully soon. And so the rules on that have changed.
Only the fueling station.
Oh, yes, the fueling station. So, when you do design builds, you don't have all the information on who the contractor is going to be for building. And so the way these requirements work is you have to get them to agree to all these things and do all these things before you give them the contract. Well, you can't do that if they're doing design build for the build, right? So they have a new process for how to handle that separately. So you have to have an open-ended performance plan. There's a new distributor definition for counting DBE credit. This one actually makes so much sense to me.
For a change.
Yeah, for a change, right? Like this one makes sense. So in the past, if you had a DBE who was, say, supplying uniforms, right? And then they were the DBE, you gave them $100,000, you counted $100,000 toward your DBE goal, which is great, right? Benefits us. However, they're now saying, that's wonderful. They may have put the logos and distributed those shirts, but who made them? Was it a DBE who made them? Well, no, it was made in China, they're not DBEs. So we now have to count those differently, so that'll adjust our credit.
All the Olympic berets were made in China.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, there's the chance it was made by a DBE American registered, really, not likely. They changed the definition of what a DBE is, so now they can actually be much larger businesses than they were in the past. Again, we're not certifying agencies, so we won't have to deal with that, but it's just something to note. And there was this rule before that you couldn't, if you had a DBE that was decertified, while they were on the contract, you had to stop counting them as a DBE. But you can now, as long as they were certified when you gave them the contract, you can continue counting them. So that's a plus. We don't get a ton of DBE participation. We hopefully will with our construction, but most of our federal funds are things like repair a transit contractor, which does have a DBE, and bus purchases, which don't count towards DBEs. So we haven't had a ton of participation, but with our construction projects this year and our federal funding, we will be seeing quite a bit more. So the policy attached had not, I'm just gonna warn you, had not been reviewed by the attorneys. So they have sent it back to me with a few changes, but they're just more grammatical and they're not really, they don't really impact the actual policy itself. They couldn't get it back to me fast enough because our attorneys, their primary clients are transit, and we all have to have this in next week. So we were reviewing instead of them at the same time, so they were a little backed up. So that's it. We are asking that you, let me just double check the back page, see if I'm missing any. No, we are just asking that you recommend that the board approve the new DBE updated policies so that we can submit it to the FTA by the due date of October 9th.
So I do have a question, but I know John's. So, anyway, I actually do, and it has to do with the bigger picture. When the revisions came down, how much advance warning do you have? It sounds like right now what you're hustling, right? We have to get, the attorneys haven't even reviewed it. Was there a comment period? Was there anything that we just got this jammed and we're
Well,
on, right?
Okay, so originally there was the proposed rulemaking, there always is. And I don't know how long that went on. And then it was in April, I think, after they passed it, that I first heard about it. There was not a lot of notice sent to the civil rights officers at the Bay Area agencies. Luckily, I'm a member of the Business Outreach Committee, which is all the DBE officers, well, most of the DBE officers of the transit agencies in the Bay Area, plus the 2 airports, and I think we might have some FHWA in there too. So we've all been working on it. There were about a dozen trainings because this is so incredibly complex, although not all that apply to us. And then the Business Outreach Committee had 4 2-hour meetings to go over what we were going to add and what we were going to do for each of us. So it was quite complex. I mean, I got lucky because we're having a board meeting on the 7th, but most of the other agencies had to have theirs in last week. So we're all rushing at the end because we also have a lot of questions. We're not getting response from the civil rights officer at FTA, but there's a great guy at the FHWA, same rules, who has been helping us out quite a bit. So we've been working on it together as a group. And yeah, it's been kind of crazy because they've not, even with their trainings are not clear. We've all attended the trainings and then we talked about the trainings afterwards. What did you guys get out of that? What did you get out of that? So yeah, it's not what we were expecting. We actually thought that they would be relaxing some of the DBE regulations this year, but.
Sounds like there's a lot of reporting increases, changes, and that looks like the emphasis,
Yeah.
classifications.
Yes.
And additional reporting, and I think we all know that seems to be the mantra these days,
Yes.
in other
yes.
areas as well.
And many of these other agencies are actually adding staff to their DBE staff. We unfortunately don't have DBE staff, but certifying, that's me, this much for my work. But like VTA, who's a certifying agency, they had to they had to actually create like almost a whole nother department for the certifying because for certifying, you only have 30 days to get back to them. So it's much crazier. And then for us for reporting, yeah, that's, I know Golden Gate's looking for another DBE person. They're just, it's a huge difference in the burden to the staff.
Remind me, what was the deadline on this?
It has to go to FTA by October 9th.
And there's no additional funding for all this.
Well, of course not.
So are you de facto liaison officer?
I am the de facto DBE liaison officer because many years ago, nobody else would do it and I was young and in a much lower position and they
You
put
didn't
it on
step
me.
back fast enough.
Well, no, I didn't feel I could step back and then I have not found anyone to dump it on since. So I've been looking. I've been
Delegate.
looking. But yeah, the other D word. Yeah, no one else is gonna step up and do it. And yeah, it's taken me a long time to understand it even too. It's just, they keep changing the rules and it's just very complex.
Well, I see that if a company does become decertified,
Yes.
our contractor can continue to use them, but as I read, we don't get credit for that.
No, we do still get credit now with the new rules. I believe we still get to,
It says the authority cannot count the continued performance by the decertified DBE subcontractor.
under the new rules? All right, maybe I read that one wrong. What page
Page
is that?
25.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, county DB participation after these.
I thought they changed it so that you could.
So if an agreement has been executed.
County DBE participation after decertification.
So if they have an agreement with the prime and the sub.
The prime contractor may
For-
also continue to receive DBE credits.
Yes.
But the authority cannot count the continued performance by the decertified DBE towards the
Towards the
authority's
overall goal.
overall goal.
I'm gonna double check on that.
Yeah, because it looks like in the first part, if there's an agreement with the contractor and the DBE sub,
Yeah,
before the certifying agency has notified the DBE that
They
they're,
can keep
then you
using,
can allowed to continue to.
but we don't get
but we don't
credit.
get credit for that.
Oh, okay, the prime contractor may, okay, yeah.
So if the large
yeah.
print giveth, the small print taketh away.
Yes, so I can't kick them off, which is great, I guess. But,
Yeah, so.
yeah, our DBE goal is a very complex thing because you set the goal based on, there's We have a landscaping project, and of all the landscapers in the area, 50% of them are DBEs. So your goal is then set at 50%. And that's great if the lowest bid happens to be a DBE. If not, you don't have to explain why you didn't meet your goal. So
And you said the attorneys have seen this, but not necessarily given their final comments on it?
they have commented, but I don't have it done yet.
And there's.
I just got it this morning.
Okay, and they didn't give you any heads up, like this provision here, this paragraph?
The only thing they took out was, because.
Take out?
Yeah, they took out, well,
Okay.
because I made something more complicated than it needed to be.
Oh,
And that had to do with prompt payment. So prompt payment is 30 days. But in California, there's this other rule, but that doesn't apply when it's to the DBE rule. So I was trying to go with the more complicated rule to satisfy all the rules. And the attorney said, no, you don't need to do that. You only need to follow the DBE rule 30 days. So, which is great because one was 7 and one was 15. So,
So that's section 26.29 on page 35, the prompt payment.
okay.
You said that would change then when,
it changes, basically it takes out the part about the 15-day and the 7-day,
okay, so that's this.
the California rules.
Mhm.
So you didn't get any heads up from legal, that said, hey, look, this is problematic. It was more of guidance.
Exactly. Yeah, and then there was some like grammatical changes in that kind of thing.
Stuff.
Oh, we prefer this wording over this wording. So, but the substance was good. So I guess that the DOC kind of worked on it together.
You
So
want a motion?
I was wondering if you had any questions or anything.
Oh, no, good golly, no kidding, not had a hard time. Reading it made me dizzy. It felt like
Yeah.
with all the alphabet soup and all the acronyms, it was kind of like a Saturday Night Live, skit with the
trust me, I know
NP,
you're
RM and
reading it
AC,
every time.
DBE and,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
All
I
right,
think this used to be something called SLEB.
No, I think SLEB is ACTC, something that's ACTC uses.
Yeah, it was like a small businesses, but they were emerging.
Small, local, emerging businesses and ACTC, but, ACTC, no, this used to be known, this is from Title VI, and it used to be known as the Woman and Minority Act.
Yeah, there was another acronym for that.
Yeah, probably. That was a little before my time. It's been DBE as
I've
long
been here
as
a
I've been
long
around.
time, so
Yeah,
that's-
yeah. No, I sat down with an attorney who'd been in transit forever. And he thought I'd been around for the 1964 Act and I had not been born yet. But I let it go. And he kind of, walked me through how it evolved over the years, and they changed it to DBE so that it didn't sound like it was preferential, although it's clearly preferential, and they've made it more preferential now. So, but yes, ACTC has a whole program for using local businesses who are registered with them. So, when we receive funding from them, if it's 100% funded by them, we have to follow that, so. Luckily, it's rarely 100% funded by them, so.
all right, do we have any public comment on this? Okay, if there are no more
You
questions,
moved approval and.
Now I move approval to,
Yes,
let's see, approve resolution, with the updated DBE policy.
all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's no nays. Okay, moving forward. Item 7, approval of resolutions authorizing LAVTA to apply for Alameda County Transportation Commission 2026 Comprehensive Investment Programs CIP funding for the Atlantis Facility Construction and Rutan Facility Security Gate Replacement Project.
Rolled right off the tongue, doesn't it?
I had to take 2 breaths.
Yeah. All right, Jennifer Gaines will be, sure, and you got it, so I'm not gonna restate what you just said. That's the
Like you said.
that I'm presenting. So this is a, required resolutions of local support for upcoming funding applications for discretionary funding to the Alameda CTC. This program, if you serve on the Alameda CTC board, you probably are familiar with the comprehensive investment program, which they put together every 2 years out of a combination of ACTC's discretionary funding sources they oversee. They bundle it all into one, as it's called, comprehensive program. And then they put together all the money, and then they say, everybody give me all your applications, and then they program it all together. So for us, we mainly look at the discretionary transit program within the CIP overall. And then we do apply every 2 years when they do this, so this is nothing new. The only thing that's new this time around is that they're asking for resolutions of local support before local agencies submit their applications. In the past, they only asked those resolutions after the projects had been recommended for award. And I'm sure there's a good reason why we're doing it this way now, so we're doing it this way now. So the two projects that are being, the staff is recommending we put in for, that the resolutions would support, are $2 million for the Atlantis facility construction project. As I think the board knows, this is one of our top priorities. It is on Alameda CTC's 10-year priority project list in the 2020 countywide transportation plan. This one's a no-brainer. We are asking for the maximum request amount allowed by the programming guidelines. The second project is to replace the rattan security gate back here, which is, I would maybe generously say, is in the process of failing. This is a gate that opens and closes to the bus yard. The buses go. And so, look, I think this paints a pretty accurate picture of our current facility situation right now, which is we have a new one that we need and we have an old one that's falling apart. And so they're going to get both requests. And so that pretty much, I think takes care of what we think makes sense administratively as far as discretionary grant applications that we think can do well for the commission's adopted prioritization criteria. The only new information, I think, based on things that you haven't already heard about before about these projects, is just that the rattan project will require some additional local match that we haven't previously included in our CIP, but the project may not get underway until FY26 anyway. So if we're successful in receiving these funds, we would deal with it in next year's budget. So big picture, the applications will be due October 31st, pending concurrence of the board to submit these two applications. And then we anticipate Alameda CTC would program funds in May. So there'll be quite a long lead time between when applications are received and when the commission programs them. And I believe that concludes my report. Pretty much, we just need the board to approve the resolution to include the applications. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
My first glance over this, the Atlantis facility construction is $2 million and the gate was a third of that.
That would be.
It's like, no, I know the facility is more than $2 million.
Yeah.
Many, many more.
Yeah, that's correct.
But every little piece counts, right?
Sure.
Just putting it all together, all that.
Yeah.
Bringing all those multiple
Do
pots
we have any
together.
public comment?
We do not.
Motion?
Move approval?
Second?
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, item 8. Contract award for the Japan facility of hydrogen retrofit project.
So I'm taking this one as well.
All right.
And I'm very grateful that Tamara got you really warmed up for this item, so thank you, because now we're all really thinking about how we use our federally administered funds to award third-party construction contracts, and here we are. So this item is to request that the committee recommend that the board approve a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Reliable Monitoring Services to perform the installation of equipment and related work necessary to carry out the rattan facility, hydrogen retrofit project, and that the board authorize the executive director to execute the agreement, and finalize all details. So this project may be one you recall hearing about from earlier this year. It has taken shape over about the last year or so, putting together both state and federal funding to support this project. It ties back to the agency's zero emission fleet transition plan, which with the all hydrogen strategy identified, of course, the Atlantis facility as the main hydrogen facility of the future. But on a contingency basis, whenever our first hydrogen buses arrive, we do need a way to safely operate and maintain them. And that includes making some modifications to retrofit this facility, a couple of bays, with the necessary ventilation, alarm protection for hydrogen gas, so that we can work on such buses here safely, at least on a transition basis while we're working on, Atlantis for, when farther off in the future, when many more of our buses in our fleet are hydrogen, it's not gonna start off that way, as you know. So the design for this project was completed in 2023, and in May, the board awarded a construction management contract to Gannett Fleming, who's been assisting us during the procurement phase for this contract. Our procurement policy, which includes the applicable requirements for federally funded projects, does require us to go out to a competitive bid that's really minimally restrictive in order to maximize competition, which is according to federal grant rules. And so in doing so, I'm excited to report that this is the first solicitation we were able to put out, at least as far as IFBs, on our new electronic procurement portal, which meant we got a lot of reach out, out into the world of the opportunity, which when we create more competition, we hope for lower bids, more and more competitive bids to come in. And so we did end up with, I think, a total of something like 25 document takers eventually. It is kind of a specialized project because of the nature of the work on the hydrogen detection systems. And so there was also we didn't do a formal pre-qualification process, but we did, and we always do require that bidders show us that they are capable of doing the work required. The project was open for 52 days altogether. In the end, we received 3 bids prior to the deadline, and those are listed in your staff report. The low bid was received by Reliable Monitoring Services for $673,526. All of the bids received were fairly close with the engineer's estimate, which is good. So this has been an issue, I think, in years past, especially during, I'm sure all of you know, during the pandemic. Some of the bids we were getting were unexpected.
In heaven is what the engineer's estimate is, and then there's the real world.
The low bidder, was found to be responsive and responsible, so they have done a project very much like this at another Bay Area transit agency that is also transitioning to hydrogen fuel cell buses. So, and we did connect with the project manager on that project especially, and their work was very well regarded. In terms of its completion, they are also a certified DBE, and 91% of their bid amount is going to go towards which I don't have to explain to you because you all know more about this now than I do, but 91% ought to go towards satisfying our DBE goal for the year in accordance with our adopted DBE program, whatever that may be. And then our estimate is that about a quarter of the work is slated to be subcontracted to firms that are located right here in Livermore. So that's good to know. So the bid basically came in within budget, which is good. We are requesting a 15% contingency for this project, mainly due to probably some uncertainties we may encounter working on a 30-year-old facility and doing things like opening up the roof and things like that. So because we feel like because the bids came in lower than the budget, we can afford a little bit maybe more on the contingency side to make sure that the project gets wrapped up with minimum delays and disruptions to our ongoing operations here. So that is just a summary of the bid process. The project is completely included in the FY25 budget, so nothing new there. And then upon execution of the agreement, LAVTA would issue the notice to proceed to the contractor, and we anticipate the project being completed within 180 calendar days. And we do have professional construction management support already on board. The board approved in May. So we are looking forward to hitting the ground running with a successful project.
I have a question, but I'm gonna open it up for. Yes.
It's all stainless steel.
Is it all stainless steel?
Yeah.
I don't.
Because we had,
I think that's kind of heading in my direction where I'm.
because we had a contractor that came in and, our construction manager came running back into the laboratory and he said, they're putting in gas piping. And I said, you gotta be kidding. And these were GC gases that we're using, high 5.9 gases. And they were running gas pipe for hydrogen. and, like galvanized iron, gas pipe, and you can't use galvanized iron.
So there will be no hydrogen
It goes brittle.
plumbed through anything for this particular project. The hydrogen fueling station and where the buses will be fueled will be a totally separate procurement.
You're answering my question, but I want to.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't.
No, that's
There is
good.
no
That's
hydrogen
good.
coming to
That's
this
good.
facility in any pipe whatsoever. It is ventilation alarms. There'll be some work with the fire department to get them comfortable, and so we can talk about emergency preparedness. We'll actually have to work with all fire departments in all 3 cities in case there's an incident and there's something that happens when the buses are out on the road. So, sorry to jump in, but.
No.
This is one of these huge things that the other thing is in one of the, they were putting a perforation in the roof, for to vent the gases.
Yeah.
And they were just do one perforation, because it was easier and cheaper. And I pointed out that single perforation was also going to be connected to our atomic absorption spectrophotometer, which used flame. And to have flame go out the same conduit as hydrogen gas might
not be a good idea.
idea.
I know, that's the detection system.
So, I just get paranoid sometimes on these things.
Yeah.
The more you know, the worse it gets.
So you did show me around, I'm relating all that back, and bear with me on this question. So we're not gonna have any storage facilities here, zero hydrogen. So here comes a bus coming on in, you're just gonna service this thing, and it's loaded with fuel.
Hydrogen fuel? Or
Hydrogen fuel. So in effect, I mean, you wouldn't be taking all that stuff, you wouldn't be, I wanna use the term draining.
You're
Why?
gonna invent it.
Oh, it's the
You're not
term.
gonna invent it.
Only in, I think, in an emergency situation.
So you've got
that
this full
happens.
tank of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And
On the
you're not
roof.
going to vent it all to empty the tank,
Mhm.
right? I just wanna make sure that we're talking the same thing here, or,
I don't know if we're far enough along,
yeah.
or I don't think I'm able to answer that question intelligently. I know that, just from what I've
Or would
learned.
they remove the bus and go do it?
So none of the fueling will happen here, none of the,
okay.
unless there was an emergency situation,
Yeah.
we shouldn't be emptying the tanks. But I do know that hydrogen is, it rises very quickly, it's also
Sure.
very flammable,
It's
so.
the most common element in the universe.
And it is, so the emergency procedure, if there is an issue, is to, I think, vent all the hydrogen out of, if you're on the bus and you're out driving around. At least that's what they do with trains. So I got to ride on one of the hydrogen trains in Florida last year, with Melissa Hernandez. It was really cool. So they talked to us about the fuel cells and the safety procedures. So,
But I mean, just as and I'm not a subject matter expert yet on the hydrogen either, but to think of it as a servicing thing, they're not just dumping hydrogen any more than they don't dump the diesel out
Yeah.
before they put it up on the lift.
yeah,
Like, that's valuable. We need that to operate the bus.
yeah.
No, I get it.
Even though it is the most abundant element in the universe.
Yeah.
Still,
Okay.
still does.
Yeah, this is just enabling us to safely maintain these buses in our current maintenance space. So it will retrofit 2 of our 4 bays. And yeah, we saw AC Transit has this at their facility, so this is it's pretty standard.
And all I was doing is getting the visual in my mind,
Yeah.
how this would all kind of work.
I'm happy to send some pictures if you'd like. I can ask.
If it's no problem,
not a
just
problem.
when you have a moment, just, hey, yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Do we have any public comment on this?
No, we don't.
Hey, folks,
I'll move for approval.
Second.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and as we turn the page, item 9, preview of upcoming FNA committee agenda items.
I will take this one just, so we are looking to October, we've got your annual comprehensive financial report and your treasurer's report. And just to note, we are going to start including in your treasurer's report any contracts that I enter into within my delegated spending authority, between $50,000 and $100,000. This came up at Projects and Services yesterday. We were talking about our strategic plan. And so they wanted to know, or they recommended that we include my delegated authority, whatever contracts I'm executed. executing in the treasurer's report or in another. So we're gonna do that, so we'll have that narrative for you, at the next meeting. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cancel this footnote. Typically, November meetings are canceled because we have quite a few things that might be on your November, agenda. Notably, the Wheels Access Contract Award. So we will be issuing an RFP here shortly, to procure mobility managers for our, paratransit, service. So this is an Alameda CTC grant. And I think maybe it won't even, November will be too soon for it, won't it?
I wouldn't cancel a meeting. Yeah, like,
Okay.
we'll figure that one out.
So we will be looking to bring that contract award to you. And then either in November or shortly thereafter, we do want to have a conversation with both committees and the board about the composition of the bus purchase for fiscal 25. So we are purchasing 12 buses. We have funding programmed for 4 of them to be fuel cell and 8 of them to be diesel hybrid. If we are successful at our TIRCP application, which I presented on, the good juju, let's see if the good juju comes through for us. If we are successful, we'll know here in 1 month, and that can then inform this conversation. So we will, but we do need to decide how many buses or what types of buses we're purchasing, because we have buses that need to be retired. So we'll have that conversation here before the end of the year.
And we can buy those locally too.
I believe so. Yeah, that's what we're excited about. Yep.
And then the sales tax for that goes back into the fund to fund transit.
Yes,
Mission
Yes.
DB.
we love that. We love that.
Is your BBTEA as well?
Mhm. So that concludes my update.
Okay, committee members, let's see, I'm sorry, that was 9, right? Yeah, okay, so that was 8? No, that was not.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the.
No,
My bad,
I thought,
sorry.
okay, so that was 9, so we got 10, any committee members, any matters, anything going on there? Hearing none, looks like, the next scheduled meeting is October 22nd, that's still all good, and we should have quite a few things on that, right?
Yeah, we'll have our audit for sure.
Yeah. All right, so with at 4:38 and 8 seconds, I adjourn the meeting.